Hello there girls and boys. In this video we're going to be talking about how to set up Aerodrums.
Did someone say drums?
Yes girls and boys, as I said before, we're going to be talking about Aerodrums. To be specific, we're going to be talking about how to set it up properly. Aerodrums is a great tool for those of you who are trying to find a way to perform and play your drums without making any noise, and the best part, you can use it wherever you want. If this is your first time in the channel, I welcome you. In here I'll show you every single thing we do in order to create, write, produce, and of course perform our music live, because I know that making a living as a musician is not a dream, it's a possibility. With that being said, let's get into it now.
First things first, we're gonna set up all the hardware and I'm gonna walk you through it, and then we're gonna look into a little bit into the software to see exactly how to make it work, and then I'm gonna walk you through how I use it on my daily basis and with the band and the full application of what can be done with it, okay? So let's do it. Okay girls and boys, just a few things I find to be noteworthy, at least in my opinion. So the setting apart and the light control thingy is really important, because if there is anything in the way, you won't be able to play properly. So one thing to take into account is, if you're playing in an environment that light is not really something that you have control over, like if you're near a big window or whatever, anything that can change, you probably will face problems. So always try to have control over the lighting of the environment. So if you have a window that can be closed, like curtains or whatever, close the curtains, because even if you have a light on in the room, that shouldn't be a problem as long as it's something that's steady and it's not coming from behind you. So you can leave the light on in your room, just close the blinds and make sure that there's nothing reflective or any light source behind you. You should be fine. So now that all the hardware is set up, we are gonna move into the software, okay? So the first thing we're gonna do when you're here, this is what you're gonna be facing. This is the main menu, and on this menu you're gonna set up. That's the first thing you're gonna do. So the first thing it's gonna show is that guy sitting in a chair. He looks kind of awkward, but he's serving his purpose. And you're gonna go next because you don't really need to read that. It's not important. All it says there is that if you have light behind you, everything's gonna go to hell. Okay? So the guy's walking, he's banging the table for some reason. You can go next. It's gonna be fine. So then the guy is showing you where to sit. I don't usually sit on his lap because that would be inappropriate. So what I do is I just try to be a little bit closer than it feels like that his position. That's how it felt to me anyway. If I think I'm right where he is, I usually don't get the same response as I like anyway. So you can see there on the screen how it fares roughly. So I'm a little bit closer to the screen than he is, but it's fine. So you can just go ahead to the next one. And then this part is very important because it's gonna show you how reflective is the environment you are at the moment. And that's kind of gonna dictate how well the whole software is gonna work. Because if there's light coming from behind you or from nearby you, the system is gonna notify you. It's gonna have those red spots there. And whenever there's red spots, something is going to go wrong. Believe me, it will go wrong. So first of all, you have to hide the reflectors, because if you have the reflectors on screen, you won't be able to do anything. So just throw the sticks away, hide the foot reflectors, and if the background is good enough, that's it. It's going to take you to the drum kit. Okay? If your background is not good enough, you will have to sort it out, because if there is light coming in, if there is any bright spot, you will feel that's gonna affect your playing, and it's gonna affect the response of the whole program, okay? So this setup part is very important. So take care of the lighting of the environment. It doesn't need to be fully dark, just need to make sure that there's no light coming from behind you, and you should be fine, okay? So now, I'm gonna get my pads, I'm gonna get my sticks, and this is the first kit you have, and it looks like crap. There's one hi-hat, a snare, and a bass drum, and that's it. It's a pretty basic and boring drum kit. But you have to set it up. It's the first drum kit you got. So the first thing you do, the Aerodrums are gonna tell you to waves your arms around like a madman in order to place the drum kits there. So you just use the hits with the stick to place the drums. It's simple enough. So this is the first drum kit, but you don't really need to stick to it. You can customize drum kits. It's actually quite fun to do. So this is the first kit that comes. This is the kit that I use. Okay, so not this one, not this one, not this one, this one. The copy of the copy. This is the one. Okay, so this is the kit that I use. You see that there's a lot going on, but it's cool. Cool. Alright, so how do you customize a drum kit? So you have to go back to the menu. So you click on the little house there. And when you're on the menu, you have to go to drum kits. Once you're in drum kits, you see they're new, it makes sense. Click on new, and then the Aerodrums is gonna give you a list of all the elements you can add to your drum kit. So all the cymbals and all the toms and all the snares and all the kicks. You have quite a few options there, and you can put as many as you want. And all you have to do is click on the right arrow, and you can put a couple of piccolo snares. And well, that doesn't really sound like a great idea, but you can if you want. Alright, so once you've chosen everything that you want in your kit, and take into account that you can add a lot of stuff, but having a lot of stuff on screen doesn't necessarily means that you're gonna have a great response from everything. So maybe you should start with a smaller kit and see how it responds, and if it feels alright, you can add more stuff, okay? So once you've chosen everything you want on your kit, you just go okay. So okay. So I'm creating a pretty simple drum kit here just so we can fool around for a bit. Okay, so that's okay. And then when you go to drum now, you're gonna have to set your drum kit. So you have all the elements that you've chosen, and now you need to place them using your sticks and your feet reflectors. So, okay, first you do start, there you go. And then first thing, the snare. So just hit where you would hit a snare. So if you think you had an actual drum kit in front of you, you just hit wherever you would hit if you had a drum kit in front of you. That makes sense? That should make sense. Okay, so snare. So now the tom, just a little bit over the snare, there you go. I have a china, for some reason just after a tom, so I'll put the china way over here. Okay, way over here. And that's it, that's my drum kit. Okay, so that's my drum kit. I have a tom, a snare, and a china. It's a very specific drum kit for very specific uses. Okay, but you got the gist, okay? So, girls and boys, Aerodrums is a pretty straightforward software. As you can see, there's an easy way to do it, and you can, after you set up your first drum kit, you just plug and play, nice and easy. But there's more that you can do with it, and that's not the way I use it anyway. The preset sounds, they are okay. I won't say that they're bad. They are pretty usable, especially if you're just practicing on your own. It's just an alternative to practice silently. Just plug your headphones and you can practice drums, which is quite amazing on its own. But if you want to sound amazing, there's a way to do it. So what I do when I'm rehearsing with the band, or even recording, because you can do it with the Aerodrums, I use it in conjunction with a DAW, which probably many of you are used to this term and know what it is. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know that you can have virtual instruments in there, and you can use the Aerodrums to trigger those virtual instruments. So in that scenario, if you have a great sounding drum kit in your DAW, you can use Aerodrums to play those drums, and it's gonna sound awesome. And that's what I do. On setting up your drums, I mentioned before that you can add a lot of stuff, but that not necessarily is a great idea. And why did I say that? It's just because I felt, after playing around for a little bit, that some areas, if you consider the whole area that appears on screen, some areas are more responsive than others. So you can add a couple of cymbals if you want, but especially with the cymbals, I noticed that when you have a lot of things on the upper portion of the screen, they are not as responsive. Sometimes you try to hit them and you won't get any response from it if they are too far up. And even if they are on screen, but you probably won't be able to hit them. That might also happen if you have them too far on the sides. So you shouldn't, not that you shouldn't, like if it works for you, it works. But well, for me, I always try to have my kit covering a specific area of the screen. So basically that mid portion of the screen where I find everything more responsive. So I have a lot there, but it's all in an area that I can have access to. So if you wanna, I recommend you to try some stuff out, but just keep in mind that you'll probably face some issues if you have things that are too far away from you, okay? And just one thing, girls and boys, as I've said plenty of times, I find Aerodrums an amazing tool because it allows you to play on nothing at all and get drum sound from it, which is awesome. You can just put on headphones and you'll be listening to drums and not bothering anybody, which is great most of the time. Sometimes you want to bother people, sometimes you don't. But it has plenty of flaws. Flaws that I think you can put up with because of what you get from it. But it's not perfect. You will get plenty of mistriggerings happening. Most of the time, if you have lights coming from behind you, but even if you don't, the response is not perfect. You will have to adjust your technique a little bit. Because, of course, you're not hitting on anything. So it only makes sense that you're gonna have to play a little bit different. Which can be good and bad. It can be good because it will teach you how to use a little bit more finger in your techniques, because you won't have rebound to throw the stick up. So in a way you need to have more control over the stick in order to be able to play something that you would play on a bouncy surface. So that can be good in a way, but also you have to be careful not to be sloppy on your technique, because if you just, let's say, not care about what you're doing, maybe when you move back to a drum kit and you try to play what you were playing on Aerodrums, you might feel that you, well, develop some bad habits. So if you have the opportunity and have access to a drum kit, try to be in between them. Just don't rely solely on Aerodrums, if you can, of course, because, well, nothing can actually replace a proper drum kit, the feel of it and the sound. But as a tool, I'd say is a very good one.
As you just saw, using Aerodrum software is gonna be a great alternative. If you got any questions, leave it in the comments down below. And of course, if you want to support this channel, the best way to do it is by listening to our music on Apple Music or Spotify, and following us on Instagram would be great as well. As every single time that we meet you girls and boys, I gotta remind you something: never ever ever let anybody tell you what to dream about, and remember that we will see you when we see you.
Let me tell you the woman I kept seeing every night, a girl I never met before.